these are two things that we're going to talk about today. I've decided just to kind of break it down to the two most important things that I see top agents doing that oftentimes they don't even know they're doing. It's not a thing that you're going to see taught a lot. And so I guess I want to know from you guys today, and I can't see the chat, so you don't have to necessarily answer, but I want you to answer to yourself. Do you have control of your business right now? Do you feel like you're running your business, or is your business running you? And a lot of times, maybe we don't have control in that we don't have a steady flow of income. That's one type of control. Certainly, we know what to do there. We need consistent behavior, consistent lead gen behavior. There's another type of control, which is once we have a client, how is that operating? How are we operating in our business? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I want to talk to you today about. And by the way, today, I have a good anniversary of today. 17 years ago today, I donated a kidney to a college friend of mine. And I start out every morning this day with a note from my kidney twin, I call her. So we have that anniversary today, 17 years ago. So just so you know, there's some positive, yes,
good stuff
to this day. All right. So the question is, well, we're going to spend the next half hour talking about, or 40 minutes or whatever we've got together. Will you take some of this and implement it? This is the question you have to ask yourself every time you sit here. Every time you sit through class, every time you read a book, every time you watch listen to a podcast, watch a video, take a class, will you implement something? I don't think you're going to go and do everything we're talking about today. That would be insane, and I don't do that either. But I want you to take one or two nuggets and actually make a change, permanent change in your business. One that has the biggest impact. One that might not be the easiest thing, but will have the biggest impact, okay? So this is going to be different for everybody here. This little mini course here today is great because everybody can walk away with a different idea, but these are the same broad concepts, okay? These are two things we're going to talk about today. And please don't think, oh, these are kind of basic things. This is the secret sauce, guys. This is nobody's teaching these at a real, other than just kind of conceptually, they're not teaching like implementation of standards and expectations. My ability to set expectations with a buyer or a seller makes every ounce of difference in how that deal flows, how happy that client is at the end of the deal, what my life feels like during the deal. And I very rarely see agents setting expectations at a very high level during the consultation process. I just very rarely see it. And I'm going to give you some things to think about there. And then standards, I got to tell you, it is lacking in your individual business, very likely. I'm not saying there's not an exception in this room right here, and maybe more exceptions than others because this is a great group. You guys are focused. Also, Ashley and Peggy, if you can, if somebody's raising their hand or asking a question or I'm missing something, just let me know because I can't see anything with sharing my screen, okay? Yeah. All right, so let's dive into standards. There's two places to have standards. There's standards in your life, there's standards in your business. Oftentimes they're different, sometimes they overlap. You run a business, guys. You're a business owner, just like your dentist is a business owner. Do you call your dentist at 10 p.m. and expect him or her to pick up the phone and to see you? Do you go to your dentist's office and knock on the door at 9 p.m.? Expect to get in? No, they're closed, right? And they probably have a message that says, if this is an emergency, dial this number. Your doctor's office says, if it's an emergency, go to the hospital, right? I'm not your guy, I'm not your gal. So when we talk about standards in your business, for instance, I want you to think about things like, what are your work hours? What are your work hours? And if you say, oh, Monica, I can't put those parameters on it, that's limited thinking. That's a limiting belief. You're just not willing to lose a piece of business over your standards. That's the problem. I want you to think about, when do you return calls? And do you communicate that with your buyer or seller in the initial consultation? Do you communicate your work hours, how you return calls, when the last time you pick up the phone is? Unless, of course, you're doing a deal, right? So my standard that's conveyed with every single client I work with in an initial consultation, which is why it's so freaking important to do initial consultations. I mean, sit down, meet with them, Zoom with them, initial conversations, consultation conversation, is, for instance, I don't answer the phone after 7 p.m. If you call after 7, feel free to do so, and I'll return the call the next morning. After my lead gen, I'll call you at 10 a.m. or beyond. Now, if we're in the middle of negotiating a contract, I will be up till all hours with you if necessary, right? This is just how I do it. You guys can spin this. My standards are not going to match your standards. I'm giving you kind of examples, okay? The other standard I put in place years ago was, what kind of client would I deal with? Now, this is really interesting because it depends on the market. So for instance, right now, I will only work with a buyer who is a 9 or 10 on the motivation scale. I will only work with a buyer who is a 9 or 10 on the motivation scale. Well, Monica, how do you know that? Because I ask them in the consultation. Hey guys, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being, I must move. There is no option. This has to happen. It's happening, and soon. 1 being, I don't really care if we find something great. If we don't, I'm just as happy to sit here, and my partner is just as happy to sit here too. Where are you guys? And I say to them, don't answer out loud. Put the number behind your back, because guess what? They're very rarely the same number, right? Very rarely. And I'm not kidding you guys. I do the scale of 1 to 10 so much with my clients. It is a very powerful technique. And so we do it at the end of every house, like after we've seen a house, and clients love it. I'm like, 1 to 10. 10 is, this is your home. You must have it. Do whatever it takes to get it. 1 being, get me out of here. I hate this house. Where are you? Don't say it. Put it behind your back and then bring it out. They freaking love it. But when we're talking about motivation, it's really important. If you've got a 9 from one of the buyers and a 4 from the other, it is time for them to have a conversation. This is not for you to figure out. And I say, looks like we've got some things for you guys to talk about. Because before we go out, walking into other people's homes, getting them out of their home, getting their babies out of their home, getting their dogs out of their home, spending a lot of time going around your time, my time, having you look at all your financial stuff and get a picture of that. Before we do all of that, I need you guys to figure out how to become aligned on your motivation. That conversation, how often do you think that's actually happening, that conversation?
Nope.
I do that conversation every single buyer consultation, every single one. How much information do I have from just spending that little minute on that one question, right? You got to do it. And if I have two buyers or a buyer that says, I'm a 9, we're doing this, I'm all in, right? I'm all in. If I've got a buyer that's like, I'm a 4 or 5, then we're having a hard conversation about what I'm willing to do. That looks more like a custom portal, and I want you to shop online for a while and go drive by it. And if you see a house that takes you to a 9 or 10 on your motivation, then call me. Right? And we're afraid to have this kind of business conversation because we're afraid it will turn them away. Guess what? They were going to waste your time anyway. Turn them away early, right? That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. What are your geographical standards? How far will you drive? Will you drive an hour away in Cincinnati? Holly, like we're not driving an hour one way somewhere, right? That's in a whole different part of the state that maybe we don't even know about, right? In LA, will you drive an hour? Yeah, of course. That's probably next door, right? That's a different standard. But what is your standard? Do you do commercial? Look, I'm licensed. We're all licensed to do commercial, at least here in the state of Ohio, we can do that. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. That's a disservice. I have a standard. I don't do commercial. I tip that out. Or we call it tipping here in Ohio. I know people think that's weird. We refer it out. All right. What's your minimum commission? Approximately 15 years ago, yeah, just about 15 years ago, I put a minimum commission standard into my business. And it happened as a result of me saying yes to something I should have never said yes to. And is anybody here a people pleaser? Right? Highest level I am. It's like my number one downfall in business. It serves me in other ways, but it is not smart business. People pleasing does not make smart business. So I had a VIP client, somebody I'd done a lot of business with, somebody who's very important to me, asked me if I would take care of listing their grandma's house deep down in Kentucky. And he's like, it's probably an $80,000 house on a good day. And I said, absolutely, I'm happy to help because I wanted to help him. But 3% of that listing and the distance I had to drive created a friction inside of me. I didn't do my best work because I didn't want to, because I knew I wasn't making any money. And it didn't ultimately serve the relationship, right? And that's just me being honest. I did the minimum, right? This is what we do. Maybe not you, but it's what I do. And I decided from that point forward that I would not take any business at that time under 100,000 because I had a minimum standard of earning $3,000 commission. So I had an opportunity a couple years later, same kind of thing. It was a piece of land for 60 grand and it was way out on the east side of Cincinnati. And I said, I would love to help. And so that helped the people pleasing aspect of me. Absolutely. I would love to help. I do want to share with you, I have a standard in my business. I have a minimum commission of $3,000. If you don't love that because it's only a $60,000 property, I would be happy to put you in touch with a great agent that will do it for 3%. But I need the 3,000 plus. At the time, we weren't where we are with the NAR stuff. Plus, it'll be 3% to the buyer's agent. Oh, Monica, that's fine. I totally get that. Awesome. Happy as can be. Let's go, right? Standards. What are your standards? And I want you to write this down. Standards solve problems. Standards solve problems. If you have a problem, some sort of friction in your business, some sort of friction in your life, some sort of friction in your relationships, you need a standard. You are in control. What I have to recognize is sometimes my standard will not meet up with the opportunity. My standard may not allow me to take advantage of that opportunity. And I have to be okay with walking away from that piece of business. And the more you do it, the more you'll see it makes your life amazing. Because I don't ever have those feelings I was having, right? Of A, being irritated with the piece of business, but B, knowing I wasn't doing my best work. And that feels awful. Nobody wants to feel like that. I hated that feeling. And I knew it, and I just wasn't solving it. Standards will solve problems, right? How do you allow people to treat you? This is more of a life thing, but it can also be a client thing, right? You get what you tolerate. If you're not being treated properly in a relationship, you're tolerating it. I hate to give you that tough love message, but if you're being treated in a way that doesn't feel good to you, you've been tolerating it, that's on you. That's on you. What's your standard? I don't spend time with people that make me feel icky. I don't spend time with people that are negative victims. I don't. Relatives or not. I do not allow it in my house. I don't allow it in my space. I don't allow my teenager to to behave that way because it's my space. And I have a standard in my space that I can't have that. I have to protect my headspace. It's all I've got. And it's diminishing every day. All right. That's all I'm going to say on standards. Listen, that can be a whole class in and of itself, but I want you to think of geographically, motivationally, financially, what are your standards? When do you work? When do you not work? Now, 10 years ago, I stopped working weekends unless I wanted to. And I would ask the clients, when can you see houses? No, I can only see houses on Saturday or Sunday. Okay, well, then we're going to have to employ what we call a showing assistant. I will often be able to join you, but I won't always be able to join you. So I'm going to get an agent that'll open the door for you. I'll still write the offers. Are you okay with that? We have this conversation in the consultation. Hey, by the way, you know, in today's market, if something comes up, we're going to need to see it right away. I'm not always going to be available. I'm not always going to be available. I might be with another client or have an appointment. So what I do is I bring an agent friend of mine, somebody I trust. They will meet you there. They will open the door. They will get you in. My goal is to make sure you see the house and get to say yes or no to it before it's gone. I will write the offer. I will represent you, but that person will walk you through. Are you good with that? Yeah, sure. That sounds fine. That sounds great. I've set that standard and expectation. That's kind of a combo one. All right. So let's move on to expectations. Expectations for buyers and for sellers. Let's look at a few of these, and I'm going to give you an example, and then we're going to dial into my buyer consultation. I'm going to also share it with you guys, Peggy and Ashley. I can put it somewhere as a link to the Canva, the Canva art or whatever, so people can pop their own pictures and logos and stuff into it. I think this will be a really good example of how I set expectations with buyers, which makes my life so much easier. It's unbelievable. And in today's situation with NAR, we have to be doing this. We have to show our value, and we have to show up as leaders. We've got to set those expectations. But it starts with the initial phone call. And the expectation that you set in that phone call is this. Wow, she has a process. Wow, I, as the buyer, get to file in under her process, which successfully gets me to my goal. And if I show up without the ability to ask powerful questions in that initial phone call, or at least set the expectation that we must have a buyer consultation before we go out, then I'm missing that opportunity to show up as a leader. And in the absence of leadership, my buyers will lead. Have you ever had a buyer lead the process? It's a disaster. It's like you have a leash on and they're dragging you around. That initial phone call, how that goes, how you set up a buyer consultation, does way more than just gives you information about what they're looking for: beds, baths, garage, no garage, whatever. Way more. It's all about process and leadership, and so that they feel led. So they begin to trust you. So they fall in line. And when a buyer falls in line and we're clear on motivation and we're clear on communication and we're clear on expectations, I'm telling you, your business, you'll love your business. But you've got to be willing to walk away from something that doesn't fit into your standards and expectations or the way you run your business. And if your pipeline is very weak, that's why you hold on to any shred of a buyer, any shred of an overpriced listing, which, listen, things are changing. We can't be taking those anymore. It doesn't work. It's not the strategy that works. Your reputation is on the line here, guys, all right? I'm going to dive in the buyer consultation, so let me just go to the other points real quick so we don't have to come back to this slide. But from contract to close, it's also important to set an expectation. I have a canned email that goes out, and I'd be happy to share it with you as well. It's called Next Steps, and it has 3 things they need to do in the next 24 hours. One is the earnest money stuff. This is if I have the buyer. 2 is the inspection. Get your inspection set up. And in that email, I talk about how they're allowed to be there, that it's a good time to bring your contractor or any family, take measurements. Also, they're going to ask you if you want to do a sewer scope radon. Here's an article on radon. Like, I'm setting it all up so that I don't have to take them back 6 times for measurements. Oh, can we have this contractor come through? No, get them in now, right? But if you don't say it, they don't know. And then the third thing is get your loan application filled out. You've got to take that action step. And by the way, I've copied my transaction coordinator. Her name's Jill Jones. She's going to keep us on track. There are a lot of moving parts. If Jill asks you for something, I need you to get it back to her within an hour or two. This is a process. It's my process. And I'm protecting you, the buyer. That's how you position this. This is all so that we get you this home. This is all so that this goes smoothly. This is all so this works for you. This isn't about me. This is how I do a good job for you. But we miss all these opportunities that we do over and over again, like this email. Like, put it in an email and set the expectation. And also that I have a system for under contract to close, and you're still in the system, and I'm still moving you along to success. And then at closing, I set up the idea, the expectation that I'm going to send them a link to my Rate My Agent page for a review. And a positive review means everything to me. Referrals and positive reviews are the backbone of my business. Would you be willing to look at that email when I send it to you? It'll come in the next couple days. Set the expectation. It's not a surprise. And they say yes to you guys. And there's a power to them committing to you. And it changes their behavior when that email does come. Oh yeah, I remember she said that. I remember I told her I would, right? So let me pop into this, please hold. Buyer consultation. I gotta get this down here, hold on. Oh, that's too much. Okay, so I print this out. I'm actually looking for another printer because right now they cost me about $15. I have usually 4 to 6 of them on hand at any time. I bind them with the tight metal spiral binding. They're on 60 pound or 80 pound cardstock. I'm giving you the link to this in Canva. You're welcome to change it. I use their language, not mine. Let's buy a house. I don't put buyer consultation, right? Let's buy a house. Let's do this. We're protecting you every step of the way. That's for the backside of that. Hey, this is a partnership, guys. And this is like, I have like 1 or 2 sentences per page. This is a partnership. This is you and Sharon and I working together. And here are the steps we're going to go through. I'm going to highlight a few things today, but I want you to read back through this and you'll follow along. It's everything from this meeting till the happiest day when we find you that perfect house. All right. That's the backside of that. And then I go to double-sided. So, hey, let's talk about you. Let's talk about the wishes. That's what they think this meeting is about. And it's important. So we go through a lot of the basic stuff, but I want you guys to know this little sentence right here. Why is this important to you? That is a question you should ask after every answer they give you. And let me give you an example. Hey, Monica, we need a formal dining room. We need a formal dining room. Okay, wait a second. In my mind, I'm thinking, if I put that in, I'm going to eliminate some house opportunities for them. A, agents don't know how to mark that right. And B, maybe the house is perfect, but it doesn't have a dining room, but it has everything else. Like I say, awesome, that's cool. Tell me why that's important to you. Well, we have family dinners. We host it every Sunday night. My family gets together. We've done it forever. And we all want to be able to sit together. Oh, that is so cool. And I'll talk to them about that a little bit, connect with them on that. And then I'll say, so if the kitchen dining area opened and extended into the family room and you could do an extended table, would that be okay? Oh yeah, that's totally fine. We just need to all be able to sit together. Well, thank God I didn't just take the answer and put it in there, because you and I both know that would have eliminated some houses because there's not formal dining room or the agent forgot. Does that make sense? You guys following me? I want you to ask that question every time. And are there any must-haves? And then I say, in other words, is there any scenario where you would buy the house without that? Oh, Monica, we have to have an attached garage. Okay, so if it had everything else, everything you wanted, but the garage was detached, would you still buy it? And they'll look at each other and, oh, yeah, maybe, probably. Great. Thank God I didn't put in garage must be attached, because I would have eliminated houses that otherwise might be perfect for them. Now I'm saying, hey guys, by the way, this portal is going to be cast, it's going to cast a big net. I want you to know that not every house is going to work for you. And I heard you, I know what you're looking for, but I want to give you a bunch of stuff to say no to so that we don't miss anything. Is that okay? I'm setting the expectation that I know I don't want them to be frustrated that some of these don't have what they need. I heard you, but let's cast a big net. Do you agree that's beneficial? Yeah, that sounds great. We love to look at houses. Fine. Okay. So we go through that. Now we say, all right, some things I want to talk about. How do you like to communicate? What's your availability? Are you good during the day on text? Can I call you? Here's how I like to communicate. Here's when I don't answer the phone. Here's when I shut it down for the night, unless we're negotiating a deal. Also, the most powerful question, I've said this at this group before, how do you make decisions? I don't ever want you to deal with a buyer until you ask them that question. How do you make decisions? It tells you so much about this buyer and how you can show up for them in the best way. Oh, I need time to process. I'm a data person. Okay, then I better come with a good, set of data analysis, square footage analysis, whatever makes them feel comfortable. Then we have some conversation about that. If one of them is a gut person and the other one's a process person, and we're in a market where they can't sleep on it, how comfortable are you going to be if you need to make a decision in an hour? Will that work for you? If it won't, then let's not rush and see a house right away. Let's wait and see if it's still on the market 3 days later so that you have time to process it. No, I don't think we should do that. Okay, just warned you. You got to set the expectation that they might have to make a quick decision. And I also say, by the way, it's okay if you fall in love with the first house we see. That's okay. Happens a lot. Because they think, well, we didn't see enough, right? No, it's okay. You're going to know it. It's going to be real clear. We're also going to talk today about how we get paid. You maybe have heard some of the changes going on in the market. I'm going to talk about that in a little minute. Have you ever had buyer's remorse? Are you somebody that will get buyer's remorse? How should I handle that? How can I support you in that? Because it's very common, but we're not going to walk away from a contract because you have a little buyer's remorse. Am I handling these things that come up? You guys know this comes up. Maybe not all the time, but it's really demonstrating that you have a process and you're anticipating what's happening and that you've been here before and that you know how to get this done. What's a showing assistant? I just explained to you how I talk about that. I set that up so that it's no problem. And when they call and say, hey, we want to go see this house at 5 o'clock, or we want to go see this house. I say, when? 5 o'clock tonight. Yes, let me get back to you. Let me confirm. I know right away that I can't do it because I've committed to something else, whether it's a personal fun thing or I've committed to my couch. Like I'm fully committed somewhere else. And then I go and I find somebody to show it and I have them set it up and I call the client back and I say, good news, good to go at 5 o'clock. Unfortunately, I had another commitment. Gail is going to go meet you there. She's awesome. You're going to love her. And then I want you to call me when you're done because I want to know how it went. Best 40 or 50 bucks I'll ever spend, especially if it's 45 minutes up north, right? I use it all the time, all the time. If I set the expectation with it, it's not a big deal. What becomes a big deal is when they say, I want to see this house at 5 o'clock, and you say, oh my gosh, I can't. What did you just do there? You threw up a big freaking roadblock. You said no. That's what they heard. Well, let me see if I can find you somebody. I don't know. Let me figure it out. I'll call you back. That feels so icky. And we don't mean it to be icky, but don't say no. Say, awesome, let me get back to you. I think I can make that work. Let me make that work. Let me figure out how to make that work. Yes, the answer is yes. Let me do it, right? And here's the question, scale of 1 to 10, 10 being, I'm so excited to buy a house, I can't wait, we're doing this. 1 is, I don't even want to be here. Where are each of you, okay? And Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here are some decisions we're going to need to make at contract time. We don't need to go through these now, but I want you to be prepared. We're going to have to decide your price. We're going to have to decide your earnest money. Do you know what that is? Have you ever heard of that? Do you know when you get that back and when you don't get that back? We're going to have to decide what kind of loan. There's not one loan that fits all people. It's like going shopping. You find a loan that works for you. We're going to decide on inspection. There are a lot of different levels of inspection. There are a lot of things that can happen during that. I'm going to help you decide what's right for this house and for you. We're going to have to decide on whether or not you want a home warranty. We're going to decide on you need title insurance. You ever heard of the difference between owner's title and lender title? Okay, let me just explain that real quick. We're going to decide on the closing date. We're also probably going to have to decide, are you willing to let the seller stay in the house a little bit after closing? Because sometimes that's a really powerful negotiating tool. How do you feel about somebody living in a house that you own? Does that feel good to you? If it was, if it meant you could get the house, oh yeah, we're fine with that. Somebody let us do that once. Okay, great. We're going to talk about what's included in the house. And we're also going to talk about something that might make sense depending. It's called appraisal gap coverage. You ever heard of that? No, never heard of that. All right, perfect. We'll save that for later because that may not come into play. In this packet, I've included a little bit about the title insurance. You guys can read over that. We don't need to read over that today, but I want you to read through this. It'll help you decide if you want it. It's really important. Okay, also, as you go out there, there's 2 things that you're going to run into without me. And one is a for sale by owner because you saw the sign on the street that you drive by every day. And you also might decide maybe we'll build. Here's what to do if you run into those. Guys, this is the #1 expectation that costs us money if we don't deliver it, right? How many people have lost a deal to a for sale by owner or new construction? Very common. All right, so you're going to talk about that. If you see a for sale by owner, take down the number, send it to me. I will call on your behalf. And the reason is sometimes they won't let me represent you. I want to be able to represent you if that's what you want. If you want protection, I want you to be able to have it. And if you don't let me call first in both of these scenarios, sometimes it makes it very difficult. Okay. Oh, great, Monica. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. But you don't say it. How are they going to know? They don't know. They don't know. All right, guys. So let's make this official for everyone. All right. I want to talk about our commitment to you. I want to talk about your commitment to us. And I want to talk about the money. Okay. So here are 105 ways that I'm going to bring value to you. Do you want to go through all 105? They're like laughing, right? I'm going to sort of summarize my value to them. And it's all about protection. And it's all about me knowing what's ahead and how to help them avoid costly errors and how to help them navigate safely through a very complex process. But feel free to read over these 105, and there's probably 210, but I only wrote down 105 for you. And by the way, I got this straight from the NAR, guys. And I want you to take this presentation and use it exactly or whatever makes sense for you. All right, guys, here's the buyer broker presentation. I also brought one for us to sign today because we have some decisions to make. We have to decide if we're going to work together. And then I explain, and this is another class, we're not going to do this now. I explain how this works. All right. I explain that most likely we're going to be able to get the seller to offset the expense. But on the occasion that we don't, are you guys good? And here's the consumer guide to agency. This just isn't a state of Ohio thing that basically outlines my job and that I need to protect you and outlines the seller's job and blah, blah, blah. There are 3 ways commissions are going to get paid. Either the seller's going to offer you a credit to help offset my expense, or we will negotiate with the sellers to, this is to pay the buyer's broker. This is to offset it with a buyer credit. The mortgage companies sometimes are working on creative ways to help you lessen some expenses there that help you with being able to cover my expense. We'll keep an eye out for creative financing options as they come. You can have gift money on this, or you will cover the cost. It will most likely be one of the first two, just so you know, okay? Here are my contact sheet. Here are our preferred lenders. I want you to call whoever you want, but we love these guys. And this is just in Cincinnati. Actually, you guys will delete this page. We have a website for contractors that'll help them navigate that, but I won't go into that today. All right, and then thank you. Okay, how do you guys like that? Give me a little chat. Give me chat. Would you like this? Would you like to have this? Chat me up.
Love to have it. We'd love it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, good. Good.
Great
Thank you.
job, Monica. That
Well-
was so easy and just so straightforward, and it didn't feel icky at all.
Good. Can
Love
you
it.
see the power of spending 30 to 40 minutes with a buyer going through that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
This is all the shit that comes up every single time in your deals. And for some reason, we just keep whack-a-moling it every deal, handling it one thing at a time, instead of putting a system. Expectations are about systems too, let's be honest, right? Now let's look at seller expectations. That initial phone call. Are you guys doing a listing pre-meeting questionnaire? This is a Mike Ferry thing. I'll also put this out here. I believe, and let me be super dramatic here if you guys don't mind, I'm going to be really dramatic. I believe if you are getting ready to list a home and you don't go through every single question on this questionnaire, that it is a form of malpractice. I believe that if you go to a listing appointment without knowing the answers to these questions, that you are doing a disservice to your seller and that you shouldn't be allowed to practice real estate. You need to know the answers to these questions in order to do a good job for them. And here's another 1 to 10 question. How would you rate the condition of your home on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being it's HGTV ready, it's perfect. 1 being, oh my God, I'm embarrassed for you to even see it. Every single person is going to say either a 6, 7, or 8. It's just what they say. And guess what that does? Down here at number 12, I'm sorry, nope. What makes it a 10? Where is that? I guess that's in the anything positive or negative that could affect the house. Oh no, here it is. What would you think that would make it a 10? Guess what they tell you there? Everything that's wrong with the house. Oh, the carpet upstairs, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. Oh, this room needs painted. Now you just reference back what they said when you're in the house. You don't have to be the bad guy. You were right. I know you mentioned the carpet, and I think you're right. That would be a major improvement and something a buyer would really appreciate and value. You were right. Or, hey, you mentioned this. I actually don't think that's that big a deal, right? But now you've got their language to use, all right? This questionnaire, including the question, how much do you owe on the property? This is all about setting expectations. And should I bring my sign that says listing coming soon? Can you have an extra key for me? Even if up here they told you they're not quite ready yet. This thing, I keep them in my car. If anybody calls me and says, hey, we want you to come look at the house. Do you have 10 minutes for question now, or could we set up a time? I have questions I need to do before I come over. Wait a second, she's got a process, right? She's got a process. So that initial call, that pre-listing process, sometimes you're going to realize that they're in upside down financially, and they're not going to get what they need for their house. And you need to have that conversation before you even sit at that kitchen table. Do you have money to come to the table with? Because it looks like you're going to be upside down, right? And then that appointment is not called a listing appointment. That's our language. For that client, that appointment is called a marketing strategy session. And in there, we're talking about my availability, my work hours, how they like to have, how they like to converse or connect, that it's a partnership, what they need to do, what I do. And I have a whole, kind of spiel there. I have a really loose seller presentation. I make it more of a working meeting versus a presentation. I do not present. I pull out the worksheets I worked on. I tell the story of supply and demand. I tell the buyer's perceived value equals price plus condition, and we have hard conversations about condition issues they have, whether they're things they can fix or things they can't, like being on a busy road or having a power tower behind them, and how that affects the price, because it's a formula. So we go through these things, and I could teach my listing class maybe another time. And we do if-then statements. Hey, one of three things is going to happen. And you guys, some of you guys have heard this. I use it every single time. Hey, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, one of three things is going to happen when we put your house on the market. The first thing that can happen is we get a quick offer, and it's a great offer, and we get it under contract, and everybody's happy. The second thing that can happen is we get lots of showings and no offers. That is a price issue. That is a price issue. And the third thing that can happen is we get no showings and no offers. That's also a price issue. So I'm setting the expectation that it doesn't matter what freaking feedback we get, because we all know that agents give lazy feedback, and they say that the price is right when they don't even freaking care, and they're just trying to get through their emails. And I tell the clients that I'm going to reveal a secret about agents. It isn't pretty, but I need you to know this. The feedback will very likely be hard for us to actually value. Every once in a while, you'll get an agent that's going to take time and give us really good feedback. 9 times out of 10, they're trying to check this damn thing off their list because they know I'm going to send them 3 more just like it if they don't answer me. So I've set the expectation so that they can't say, Monica, everybody said it was priced right. We don't need a price reduction. Nobody's giving us feedback that it's priced right. We know, right? So set the expectation so they hear you. Don't wait for that to happen, because you can never get out of that hole. You can never argue your way out of that unless you hit it up front. And then we have the same things with under contract and at the closing. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
We've got to get ahead of the things that you know cause friction in your day. Put them down, watch for them, and then figure out how to hit those head on in a consultation. Create a system that makes that easy for you to operate through, easy for you to put somebody through your process, through your funnel. And I'm telling you, you'll have a bigger business. You'll have happier clients, which means better reviews and more referrals. And you'll have an easier life. I promise you. And these are things that top agents are doing that are very hard to kind of put into some sort of average training, right? And I'm not saying what we talked about, there was no rocket science to today, right? I doubt I said anything that you were like, what? I've never thought of that. Like, you probably thought of it, or at least the concept is not strange to you. But I want you to implement. I want you to take action on this and make your life easier. What are your standards? You know what it's like to go through a buyer process. Set those expectations. Get that consultation ready. It will make your life easier. That's it for me.
Wow.
Questions, thoughts?
Wow.
Helpful?
Wow. So, who's got hands up?
Unmic. Unmute yourself.
Hey,
Yeah.
Monica, I loved when you did this last time, and
Okay.
I adopted it and made my own and made it into a flip book. And because
Is that the buyer consultation or?
yeah, the
yeah.
buyer consultation,
Yeah,
because
great.
I'm in Silicon Valley, so everybody's like email me, and we go through it, but I love the changes you put together in that, and I love your conversation about the standards, because I've been doing this for 37 years, and I hear everything you say, and I'm like, okay, this makes total sense. So,
And after 37 years, is it time to put a standard in your business?
oh, I have my standards,
Okay,
but
good.
I didn't articulate them the way that you have, and it's a people-pleasing struggle with standards and expectations. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Are
And
so welcome.
can't wait to
Thanks.
see the seller version of that as
Yeah,
well.
we can do that. I do a class called Land Every Listing, and I don't think I've ever taught it in here, actually.
I don't think so.
Yeah, we can do
Okay.
that for sure. Thanks for that feedback. I'm glad you have standards. That's awesome.
You know, Monica, you said a couple of things in here and I was taking notes on my phone. The amazing thing is it all comes back to mindset. This is such basic that we've learned, and it's why don't we do it? Because
Yep.
we're not worthy, because we're not this, because we're not that. And if we look at how we do our real estate practice, I would be willing to bet you we're running our home life, our friend life. It all ties together. You cannot be a different person in business than you are in your personal life.
Mhm.
And I'm looking at this and saying, you know, it goes back to how we allow people to treat us. Why?
Mhm. Mhm.
And people being afraid, guys, there's no reason in the world. This is the simplest. I've seen presentations over the years by every coach, every company I've been with. You just put this in the simplest, easiest, non-confrontational format for us.
Thank you.
And I love it.
And it's for the client as much as it is for you.
Yes, of course. To
You
make
want
it,
to serve the client.
make it
Yeah.
easy. Yeah. To make
And
it
position
easy.
it that way. Yeah, yeah. So that it doesn't have to seem selfish. It's not that. You're right. No, I love that. Thank you.
And what will you implement? That's another basic question. We go to all these conferences, we go to all these seminars, we have all these books on the shelves collecting dust. What stops us from implementing?
Mhm.
So, what will you guys implement? If I, ask you, and a lot of times we'll do accountability on these calls in 2 weeks, who's going to be able to come back to me and say, yeah, I'm
Yeah, I want that
implementing.
buyer
Get the new link.
consultation,
As
guys.
soon as we get the new link, I'm
Good.
changing mine. Thank
Oh,
you.
I know you will. There's no
Good.
doubt.
You guys, and in the face of the NAR stuff, there's two things I think agents need to do to be in business in 2 years from now. And one is they need to niche down in something. They need to niche on something and become an expert. That doesn't mean you turn away other business. It means that you're known for something special.
Mhm.
And the other thing is put systems in place, particularly around your buyer consultation process. And I just don't see how you survive in this business if you don't super serve a segment, become niched in some way. So for instance, what I'm doing is we're doing an entire YouTube channel on east side of Cincinnati. So we're following Levi's passive prospecting. Go to his YouTube channel, Living in Dallas, Texas. It's so unbelievable. They just have loads of leads, qualified leads, people ready to buy because they've consumed gobs of their content. That book, Passive Prospecting, I highly recommend it. It is on Audible now, but you can also go to passiveprospecting.com and I think get the ebook version for $5 or something. It's the best thing I have read in real estate in 21 years. And we are implementing it. We're niching down. If you're Googling, because YouTube is a search engine, if you're Googling anything about living in Cincinnati East Side, you will find my stuff. Watch for it. I haven't started it yet. Like we're just implementing now. Hiring videographers, doing the things. You don't have to hire a videographer. Get your teenager to do it. It's fine. Anyway, those two things. So this all speaks to that. I believe it's urgent. And I believe you'll find it's just so much better. I had a client text me yesterday. We went through the entire consultation process. We actually were with her for an hour and a half. We were very clear on the fact that she doesn't have the means or the interest in doing renovations or fixing things. She sent us a house that was in her price range and it had one picture, no pictures, and it was an as-is sale. And she said, can we go see this? And I called her, and in all the nicest way, I said, what do you imagine is not being photographed here? And do you know what as is means? She's like, no. I said, well, you're not allowed to ask for repairs. Like you can ask for them, but they're not going to give them to you, likely. And I said, do me this favor, go drive by it. And if you want to see it after that, we'll do it. But I don't feel good about what's on the inside. Now, could I have done that if I didn't know real clear that she wasn't capable of doing a bunch of work. But
Hmm.
I had the confidence to push back on her without feeling like, oh, I just don't want to go show that house. It really wasn't that. I want to sell her a house. Believe me, this was going to be a waste of all of our time. And she drove by it and she gave me a thumbs down. She's like, thanks, you were right. Thanks, you were right. Like, boom, trust. Trust, trust, trust. As you set expectations and then you go through the process and you were right and you were right and oh, that happened and oh, that was true and oh, she told me that. Trust, 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 trust. Referrals,
Mhm.
right? That's what happens. There's so many good things that come out of what we talked about today. There's your life getting easier. There's that client, that level of client that you serve now that becomes a raving fan.
Yep.
Guys, if you look back on all the people you've served, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to get at least one referral out of every single one of them every year. That's your exponential growth in your business.
Mhm.
Is it, right?
It is. So much good stuff as always. Now I know why you are the #1 requested guest.
Oh my gosh, I'm blushing. Thank you so much.
You can blush. Does anybody have a quick question? I know we're right at the top of the hour, but if someone would like to jump in.
I see Sarah Gibson on this call. Hi, Sarah.
I cannot wait to hear the land of listing.
I'll do it.
I'm telling you.
I'll give you all the secrets. It's my
You bring
favorite thing
all
to
the
do.
fire, all the fire, all the time, 24/7.
Oh, thank you, Sarah.
Are you you are
Bill?
going to CXPCon, Monica?
I am going to EXPCon. Yep.
Okay. Wouldn't it be great if we could get coffee with Monica?
Let's do it.
We could do that.
Maybe I'll see if I can do my land listing in a breakout down there.
I think that would be awesome.
be cool,
But
too.
we love having stuff. So we'll get you on the calendar. So many good takeaways. She made it so easy. She's going to get us all the information.
Yep.
I love that you're sharing your Canva. Ashley, we're so glad you're back. Just think next week I'll be doing this from Ashley's home, holding the baby myself.
My
I
gosh.
can't wait. And then on the 25th of September, we have Elizabeth Riley is going to be our guest.
Whoa,
that's-
A-lister.
Yep.
Jeez.
Yep,
Nice.
we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, including luxury. So if you want to get some invites on it, that's a great time to come in. You guys, this is community, this is sharing, this is culture. Get more people on this call. Send out this video. I will post it. Ashley, where's the baby? Is she still in your arms?
No, I put her down. She's right
Put it
next to me.
Oh,
Okay.
Monica, will you share your seller side as well? There was some in the chat asking. as well.
I will, you'll see when we do it. It's not that I'm not willing to. I don't have, it's truly a working meeting. And, I do a lot of diagramming, like talking through the concepts in a real organic fashion instead of a canned presentation. I have the thing I do every time, so I'll teach it to you and it'll be recorded and you can watch it back and you can take what you want from it. But I will, and I am a part of the luxury, so I do have a luxury presentation, but that's just the canned luxury thing. So I bring that, but I don't walk through the typical thing like you saw my buyer consultation. That's totally different than how I handle a seller. And I just did one last night and I'm competing, which I don't very often do. I freaking love to compete so much because it gets me like, I'm just elevated when I do that. Like I want to win. I like just winning. I just like winning. And so they told me that afterwards. I asked them, but he didn't answer it. And so I kind of thought I was. And so she said, Monica, we have to go through this process because we made a mistake the first time. This is an expired listing. And we promised ourselves we would interview. But you brought something that's very different. And the story you told about the market helps us understand what's going on in a different way. That's what I want you guys to have is the ability to tell the story about their house, the story about the buyer demand, the story about what's going on in the market and why luxury right now, this is a luxury listing, We've lost half our luxury buyers because they're price sensitive and we've got rates over 6. Like, they need to understand that. They know it, but we have to tell a story around that. So anyway, you'll see what I bring, and then anything you need, I'm happy to share. I just don't have anything like that.
Cool.
Thanks.
Your questions would be great.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Guy just ordered Passive Prospecting. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, man. Yeah, it's only 2 hours. So read. I think it's the best thing going right
I'm
now.
gonna get it on audio
Get it.
right now.
Get it, but you
Right,
got to be
guys.
willing to build the site, guys. It's not just a read and don't do anything. You got to be willing to do YouTube.
Implement. Monica, we'll talk because I'll get you on the schedule real soon.
All
Thank
right,
you.
love you guys. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye,
Monica.
everybody. Bye,
Yeah.
Ash.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.